Almost everything you believe about AI is wrong. And honestly, it's not because you are uninformed. It's because the conversation around AI in 2026 is frankly completely broken. The hype you see online? It's wrong. The doom and gloom you hear about? Wrong. The sci-fi movies absolutely got it wrong. And those clickbait headlines you scroll past every day definitely got it wrong. But here's the problem. The myths they created are now actively shaping real-world decisions. People are making career decisions, huge business choices, and life plans based on things that simply aren't true.
We are going to separate the wild hype from the actual ground-level reality right now. Whether you interact with these tools every single day at your desk, just casually read the news, or simply have strong opinions about where all this technology is heading, you need to understand the fundamental reality of what we are actually dealing with here. So let's kick things off with what is arguably the biggest, most pervasive illusion of them all.
Here is a quick question for you. When a chatbot types out the words, "I feel so happy to help you," do you believe it actually feels something, even for a split second? When people interact with intelligent-seeming systems like Claude or ChatGPT, they naturally assume that some level of genuine thought or comprehension is happening behind the screen. And look, it is an incredibly easy trap to fall into, right? Because the responses sound so incredibly, convincingly human. It feels like there's a ghost in the machine. But this is a fundamental, almost dangerous misunderstanding. AI does not think, it does not ponder the universe, it absolutely does not comprehend the words it is giving you. So how are AI models explained? Simply, they calculate, they do not comprehend. Think of it like the autocomplete feature on your smartphone, but scaled up to a massive, mind-boggling degree. Modern AI systems fundamentally work by processing vast oceans of data and recognizing complex statistical patterns within that data. When you ask it a question, the machine does not understand your prompt the way another human being would. Instead, it predicts which exact sequence of words is statistically most likely to be an appropriate response, based purely on the massive mathematical patterns it was trained on. There is zero conscious experience happening. There's no inner monologue. When an AI outputs the words, "I think," it's just generating a pattern where those specific words commonly appear together in human text. This distinction is absolutely crucial because it drastically changes how much we should trust their outputs, especially on highly nuanced or high-stakes questions.
Moving right along to myth number 2. Did you know that the phrase, "Will AI take my job," gets searched over 4 million times a month? Let that huge number really sink in for a second. 4 million times, every single month. This staggering statistic makes it easily the most emotionally charged myth we are covering today. It carries the most severe real-world anxiety attached to it. People are genuinely terrified that a piece of software is going to completely eliminate their livelihood overnight, leading to absolute panic in the global workforce. But the answer that almost everyone believes right now? It's fundamentally wrong.
The actual documented reality is much, much less apocalyptic than the headlines want you to think. According to extensive, deep research from the McKinsey Global Institute, generative AI automates specific tasks, things like summarizing long email threads, pulling data, or drafting basic code. It represents up to 30% of the hours worked today, but here's the key takeaway. It does not automate entire jobs. That distinction is not just semantics, it is literally everything. Roles that require genuine human judgment, physical presence, real relationship building, and on-the-fly creative problem-solving are incredibly secure. The reality is that your job will likely shrink in some mundane areas and grow in more complex others. You're going to use AI as a tool, much like how previous generations had to adapt to spreadsheets or the internet. Understanding this reality means you can finally stop panicking about replacement and start focusing all your energy on adaptation.
And that perfectly brings us to myth number 3, which is all about AI accuracy. Because these systems deliver their answers with such remarkable fluency and absolute, unwavering confidence, people naturally assume they must be factually flawless. It's a quirk of human psychology. If someone or something sounds entirely sure of itself, we tend to blindly believe it. But AI systems can, and regularly do, make massive, head-scratching factual errors. And this happens precisely because of how they are built under the hood.
This brings us to a critical term you absolutely must know: an AI hallucination. This phenomenon happens when the model generates a highly plausible-sounding statement that is completely undeniably inaccurate. You might remember the story of those real-world lawyers who actually submitted fake AI-generated case files to a federal judge because the AI confidently just made them up. Why does this happen? Well, because as we established earlier, AI generates text based on statistical probabilities. It does not check a verified database of absolute truth before speaking. It literally does not know what it does not know, and it cannot reliably flag its own uncertainty. Therefore, the practical implication here is absolutely non-negotiable. Human verification is critical for any output that actually matters. You cannot, under any circumstances, blindly trust the machine.
Let me ask you this. Do you call all facial tissues Kleenex? Do you call every single brand of inline skates rollerblades? Of course you do. It's human nature. For our fourth myth, we have to talk about how most people use the terms ChatGPT and AI entirely interchangeably. They assume that the first tool they ever used or the one that made the biggest news splash is the only one that exists or automatically the absolute best one out there.
When evaluating ChatGPT versus AI as a whole, you have to realize that ChatGPT is just one single product made by one specific company, OpenAI. It is an AI, sure, but it is not the entirety of AI. You have Claude, made by Anthropic, you have Gemini, built by Google, you have Grok from xAI. They all have completely different strengths, unique weaknesses, and entirely different training philosophies. In fact, independent benchmarks often show systems like Gemini and Grok performing at or even above ChatGPT on many complex, real-world tasks. If you are only using one tool because it's the only one you know, you are missing out on a massive, highly competitive ecosystem of specialized capabilities.
Now here's a totally counterintuitive statement for myth number 5. AI does not destroy human creativity, it actually makes it vastly more valuable. Let me explain. Right now there is a pervasive, almost apocalyptic fear spreading among artists, writers, and creators that artificial intelligence will render human creativity totally obsolete. But that fear deeply, fundamentally misunderstands both what creativity actually is and what this specific technology actually executes.
Here is the crucial, game-changing distinction. AI handles the repetitive production execution. It generates 50 variations of an image, it produces rough textual drafts, and it renders rapid options. It does the heavy lifting of repetitive asset creation. But consider the deeply human side of the equation. AI cannot originate a brilliant brand strategy out of thin air. It cannot feel what an audience genuinely needs to hear. It cannot make that delicate, intuitive judgment call about which creative direction perfectly serves a project's ultimate goals. Think of it this way. When the barriers to raw production drop essentially to zero, the true, highly paid differentiators become human taste, original storytelling, and creative direction. Those are the exact, magical capabilities the machine can never replicate.
Moving on to myth number 6, which claims AI can predict the future. People constantly ask, if AI is so incredibly smart, why didn't it perfectly predict the last massive stock market shift, or the exact surprising outcome of complex global elections? This expectation reveals a massive public misunderstanding of what AI can and cannot do. We so desperately want to believe we've invented a flawless digital crystal ball, but the reality? We absolutely have not.
AI is merely a pattern recognition machine. Full stop. It estimates probabilities based entirely on patterns it has explicitly observed in past data. Outside of the specific historical patterns it has already seen, it possesses absolutely no special foresight. This means that when human patterns change, as they constantly, rapidly do in complex, unpredictable systems like the global economy or international politics, the AI's predictions fail completely. It essentially collapses during genuinely novel situations or unprecedented global events. It is incredibly, almost terrifyingly powerful within familiar boundaries, but utterly, completely blind to the genuinely new. If a global pandemic suddenly shifts human behavior overnight, the AI's past training data is instantly rendered useless.
I bet you think you can easily spot an AI-written email or blog article from a mile away, right? You probably look for words like delve, or notice a slightly robotic tone. Well, for our final myth, myth 7, we absolutely must address the widespread, completely false confidence professionals have right now when they claim they can spot AI-generated content just by using their naked eye. The distinctive, clunky, robotic AI voice that was so blindingly obvious back in 2022 and early 2023 has evolved drastically. Study after rigorous academic study confirms that human detection of AI writing is sitting right around a dismal 50% accuracy rate. That is literally no better than a coin toss. You could flip a quarter and be just as accurate. And before you ask, no, the premium AI detection software isn't much better either. It consistently produces massive numbers of false positives, accusing humans of being bots, and false negatives, letting obvious AI text slip right by. So what is the practical, everyday takeaway here for us? You should never assume something is human-written just because it flows naturally, and more importantly, you should never ever judge content quality based purely on its assumed origin. A highly skilled human using AI will produce absolutely brilliant work, an unskilled human using AI will produce total garbage. Judge the work itself, not the tool used to make it.
So, how do we pull all of this together? What's the bottom line? Understanding what AI actually is, stripping away the Hollywood myths and the tech bro hype, provides you with a massive, tangible, practical advantage. Step 1. You can use these tools so much more effectively because you now genuinely respect their real capabilities and, crucially, their hard limitations. Step 2. You can make highly informed strategic career choices, knowing exactly which of your daily tasks are at risk of automation and which of your innate human skills are suddenly becoming a massive premium. Step 3. You can objectively evaluate wild AI claims in the news, stripping away the doom and the hype and seeing the technology for what it truly is. The people making the absolute best decisions about artificial intelligence in 2026 aren't the ones who are the most wildly excited, nor are they the ones who are the most paralyzed by fear of the future. They are the ones who understand it clearly, the realists.